So here we are now with technical fellow Jeffrey Snover, who's here to talk about how he's taking steps to actively challenge himself and change his career and staying ahead of the constantly changing technical landscape. Thanks for joining us, Jeffrey.
Yeah, great to be here, Rick.
Now, in the past, you've talked about managing and navigating your career. We've had conversations about this in the hallway. We've had conversations about this during different video productions, that sort of stuff. But I noticed that you've recently made a change within Microsoft, and I want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, really big change.
Yeah, so you're currently now, your
I'm
current
now
role?
still technical fellow,
Right.
and I'm the architect for the Office 365 Intelligence Substrate.
Okay, I need you to unpack that a little bit for me right now, because what kind of caused you to make you start looking for that particular kind of a change?
Yeah, so
Kind of
really
step?
sort of at the end of last year, a number of things kind of came together and made me decide that it was time for a change.
Okay,
So the first, as you know, we often at Microsoft have this phrase that says, if you aren't scared of your job, at least every couple of years, it's time to find a new job.
correct, yes.
So really, I'd been, gotten comfortable with my job.
Yeah,
I
'cause-
was not uncomfortable.
Right, you started off on the, from what I know you from the last little while, started off with technical fellow, with a distinguished engineer, PowerShell creation.
Yep.
But then you made a change over to the server side of things.
Yep, Windows Server.
Right.
Yep.
And then after that, now you're into the status of working with the intelligence substrate.
Yeah, well, and in between there
There's one in
was
between.
Azure Stack.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so so that was one thing. You sort of got uncomfortable. One of the reasons why I've been got comfortable was that there was a reorganization, and the Azure Stack work and the Windows Server work got split, and I got moved over to Azure Stack, and so I was working in that area. So it was a much reduced scope of role, and at Microsoft we really have about 10 individual contributor technical fellows.
Okay.
Right, 10.
That's
Yeah,
not a lot for a company of 140,000 people.
Yeah, and about $100 billion. So kind of directionally, each technical fellow should be working at something that's sort of line of sight to about $10 billion.
Right, okay,
So
good math,
reduced
good math.
scope wasn't really the right place to be. And then lastly, just honestly, in the part of the reorganization, I got paired up with a new executive, and in reality, our styles didn't mesh particularly well. And a technical fellow always pairs with an executive to get big things done. So if that isn't a great working relationship, it's hard to be effective. And my job's to help make that executive successful. And so these three combinations made me say, yeah, it's time for a change.
Now, other people in the audience are kind of finding themselves in that position potentially. They might be
Yeah.
aligned to certain different working group members or whichever. What made you make that choice and that change to go off and follow off with a new executive in that new area?
Oh,
What was
that is to say, to go to the Azure Stack, or
Yes.
the new one?
The new one, like
Yeah,
the
the
Azure
new
Stack
one.
piece, I can see a logical progression, right?
Yep.
I see the progression of management, control plane, PowerShell, going into the Windows Server
Yeah.
architecture space, and then in the stack. To me, I can see the logical progression. But
Absolutely.
then you kind of went like hockey stick in different direction.
Exactly. So basically, when I decided I was going to make a change, I did the deep step back and say, okay, well, what kind of change am I going to make? And the first thing I did was to decide the big question, like, am I done? Right?
Well,
So-
that's a big topic to have to unpack.
Well, right.
there.
I've been working since I've been 12.
Right, right.
I've been in the business about 40 years. I'm showing some of my miles. And so basically it's like, hey, sort of am I done, or am I done in a year or 3 years? Am I, on a glide path to retirement? And I thought about that seriously, and then
Okay.
thought, no, actually, what gives me energy is my work. I love technology. If I retired, what would I do? And it's like, technology.
Yeah.
So I thought, no, I'm not done. So that was sort of the first question. So then I pursued, figured out, well, what am I going to do next? And that was a hard step. So basically what I did was I thought, well, geez, I've not looked for a job in 20 years.
Right.
I really have no idea what to do. And this is where, individual psychology comes in, right? The imposter syndrome. I've talked about that in the past. And so these, mean little voices in my head. So it's like, oh, well, you won't be able to get another job. Nobody wants to talk to you. It's like, oh no, what do I do?
So you were seriously thinking about leaving Microsoft at one point for
Yeah.
just your exploration of what to do.
Well, as I thought through, what do I want to do? So I wasn't sure.
Right.
And so basically, I pretty much continually get these, knocks on the door from headhunters, et cetera. And so I thought, well, okay, well, maybe I should just talk to one of those guys. And so indeed, I talked to some external company, and I had an external interview.
and thankfully you didn't go down that path.
It was a complete disaster. One of the best
You
things that
haven't
happened.
interviewed in 20 years. You're a little bit rusty at it.
Exactly. And so I realized, I went there, I was having this conversation in the middle of it, I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? Like, this is a weird conversation. And it was great because it was so spectacularly bad that it made me step back and say, hey, what are you doing here? Like, get your act together. What do you want?
Okay.
And what do you bring to the picture?
Got it.
I was like, okay, what do I want? And then I said, okay, yeah, what do I care about? What do I care about? And I realized there are 3 things that I care about. Number 1, and most important, was I was ready for a deep, new technical challenge.
Okay.
Right, a job that I didn't know how to do. Right, a job that was going to scare me. A job that was going to grow my skills. Because you get something, you give something.
Right.
There's been a lot of like giving, performing. It was time to like sharpen the tools, if you will.
Got it.
That was number 1. Number 2 was I wanted a mission. Right, a mission, something that at the end of it, the world is a better place because we did that work.
Right.
And then number 3 was I wanted to work on a great team. And a great team, that is to say, not a harmonious team where everybody's happy in this false harmony, but a team where we're challenging each other, saying, hey, let's, we're doing important things, let's be great. So those are the 3 things I started looking for.
Now, were you able to bring a lot of your, what I call tribal knowledge with you into this new environment, into this new world of things? Because it is, again, a pretty big change.
Well, no.
None of it at all?
Well, at the beginning, I thought no.
Okay.
I had, so basically I got a new role, and that new role is in, with Office.
Right.
And basically I had underestimated what a change moving to Office and then getting involved in AI was.
Okay.
Office really is like a completely different company, right? And so, we've talked about this before. At Microsoft, everyone's got 10 jobs. Their only true job is to figure out which 9 they can screw up and not get fired.
Nice.
So basically, if it's not something you're focused in on directly, you pay no attention to it. Well, it turns out while I was like focused in on these things around server and management, my friends in Office had been spending a couple $1 billion a year in R&D.
Got it.
So there's this corpus of work that was just incredible that I knew nothing about, right? So different code technologies, code names, projects, ways to develop software, ways to evaluate software, ways to look and how to run things. Everything was completely different. In fact, my joke, actually pretty seriously, was that for the first 4 months, like all the meetings I went to could have been held in Russian for as much as I understood. I mean, literally, there's this thing that says, excuse me, what does that mean? If I did that, I mean, every single sentence would be like that.
Right.
It was that non-plussing. It was that confusing.
Got it.
So that was really quite a challenge. And then AI as well. AI, I had underestimated, or sort of misestimated where AI was. It's really hard to overstate how much at the beginning of the beginning of the beginning we are with AI. And so I got involved in AI, and as I started like reading the docs, all these documents are like these super scholastic documents, right? Things you'd write, somebody going for their PhD would write. Like typically when we, Windows Server, when we talk about a technology, we write a white paper, and that white paper is written in a tone and a mindset that says, hey, how do I communicate these ideas for the maximum number of people to address, understand? Whereas with AI, that's not the case. With AI, it's still very much this academic world of these PhDs writing sort of scholarly documents to impress other PhD people. So it's really quite a surprise. So the answer to your question, hey, can I bring my tribal knowledge? At the beginning, I looked and I said, no. Like, what have I got myself involved with? Like, often I thought maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have taken that other path and retired.
Right.
Become a golf pro or something. So it was really quite challenging.
And so now you're at the state where you're inside the new job, things are good, and you're now challenging yourself. It's met your 3 requirements.
Yes.
For everything else. Any parting advice for someone that's out there looking right now for what they could do to put themselves and feel comfortable with their own kind of situation?
Yeah, so first let me just say that in the end, having gotten through that discomfort, I then realized as I kind of took a deep breath, and by the way, this was like months of uncomfortable.
Right.
Like sustained uncomfortableness. And there were various points where I said, hey, maybe I made the wrong decision, maybe I should have stayed where I was or done something more, a little less challenging.
Right.
But then having pushed through that, what I then realized was, hey, there's a lot of AI being done here. It's a lot of AI science. What we actually need is a lot of AI engineering, right? Hey, well, number one, though, I break it down and now bring my skill set. My skill set is to turn mountains into molehills, right? So there's this big mountain, it's a big mess. At the end of the day, I've only got to get two things. One is, I got to let unicorns be unicorns. There are these AI unicorns, special deep learning scientists, da-da-da. The reality is that those guys aren't doing much unicorning because it's so hard to do the work, right? The tool chains, the systems, the access to the data, the access to compute, the access to the workflows means that they're doing very little of their unicorning. They've got a bunch of work where they're not. So number one is let these unicorns be unicorns. Number two is let these horses be unicorns. How do I go and take something that right now only the experts, elite can do and turn it into something that everybody can do? And there, you know what? That's all about building platforms, building systems, growing capacity. You know, I want to say one of my goals is to increase our ability to do AI by 3 to 5 orders of magnitude. Now, when you put that in your head, 3 to 5 orders of magnitude, you realize that incrementalism is not your friend. And whereas the things we're doing are important, what we really need to do is to focus in on these things. And then I break it down. Access to data, access to workflows, access to compute, access to toolkits, et cetera. And then break that down, turn it into programs. So in the end, the answer was yes. But I had to go through a very long and profound period of discomfort for doing that. So indeed, I encourage everybody to do these things. You know, uncomfortable is the new norm. You know, if you're not uncomfortable, it means you're still in your comfort zone, which means you aren't pushing the edge. Our industry's changing so fast that if you're not pushing the edge, you're becoming obsolete.
You could end up being left behind.
Exactly. And as a leader, you should be even more uncomfortable. You need to be leading, so you got to bear the burden of that uncomfortableness. So I'd say that anybody kind of looking at this similar thing, I would say take a look at your core intrinsic motivations. Like what gets you out of bed, what keeps you motivated? Because that's the thing that's going to sustain you. And so again, it was when I looked and I said, well, you know what core motivates me is, you know, technology. Just love technology, and I love having an impact on the world and working with great teams. Those are the things that made me say, in the midst of all this kind of turmoil and despair, I was looking and I say, well, am I learning something? Man, I'm learning a lot every day, a lot. Do I feel that I can contribute? It's like, after a while, I wasn't sure, but then after a while, it's like, no, actually, I think I might be exactly the right guy here, right? Which is to say, hey, how do we transform this great science into great engineering? You know, at scale platform thinking. Guess what? Windows is one of the largest platforms. How do we take some of the lessons and scar tissues I use there and apply it here?
And everything that we've got so far, you've got good advice for the individuals out there. I want to thank you very much for your time, for being with us and stopping by. I know that you've got some demo prep that you have to do, often talk to the people. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for joining me. And thank you for joining us here on the Microsoft Unite stage, here in live.